Hi, I'm Julie, and this is our fourth episode in our short series on transitioning into a remote learning or distance learning setting that we are all in, and most specifically to help you with ideas on how you can use our resources that you may already have in this new platform, in this new situation where we're distance teaching. Or perhaps to spark some ideas for you around our resources and say to you, hey, yeah, that would work perfectly in my classes right now. So in this episode, I am going to share with you some ideas for how we can use our poem props, our traditional poem props, in your distance classes. So some of you may or may not know that April is National Poetry Month here in the United States. Making it the perfect time, certainly any time is a great time, but making it a perfect time for you to integrate traditional poems into your classes. I am a firm believer in including culture in our classroom that would allow or does allow our students to experience what it's like to be a child in a target language country. So traditional poems, traditional children's songs, traditional children's games, I think are one of those ideal ways that we can make that authentic sharing of culture happen with our students. So, in this instance, during this episode, I'm going to talk about, as I said, our traditional poem props. And in it, I have props for 3 different poems. And I'm going to share with you some ideas for one of them, Por aquí pasó un caballo. I really love this poem because it's really, really simple. It can also be done as kind of like a song game. You can look it up on YouTube, and there are some great videos that show you how to play it as a game. I like to do it as a poem, and I think it's absolutely perfect for preschool. It's very, very simple, and it's easy for little kids to learn. I think it would be great for elementary as well, but I've used it for preschool with preschool children, and I just think it's fantastic. So in our poem props pack, we do have printables for el caballo, con las patas al revés. You can see these little reverse feet, right? I always find that really funny. And also the numbers to count, because the poem itself, and this is a mini poster of the poem, if you are unfamiliar with this particular poem, it counts up to 16, which is really great. So I have all of the numbers as props as well. Now, normally in a classroom setting, I have all of these on popsicle sticks so that the kids can each have one, right? And it allows for incorporating movement and motion while we're reciting the poem. In a distance learning setting, that is obviously not necessarily what we're going to be doing. So instead, I want to use these poem props as visuals to recite and teach the poem, and allow kids to see the poem. So to give you kind of an example, and then I'm going to tell you an extension activity. So we would start with el caballo. Okay, este es el caballo con las patas al revés. Bien? And it goes like this. Okay, so por aquí pasó un caballo con las patas al revés. Si me preguntas cuánta tiene, te diré que 16. 16. Bien. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Bien. So you would use the props just as visuals to help students comprehend as you recite the poem. And you would go in a remote learning setting, making a mini video of you reciting the poem with the props as visuals is a perfect introduction to the poem. And there's a couple of ways that you could do this with your mini video. One, you could just do the poem one time. Secondly, you could do the poem more than once, right? So you can invite your students to join along with you. So after I've said the poem one time, then I might say, okay, now let's do it together. And you would encourage, if you were live on a Zoom, this would be perfect, right? But if you had to make a video and you weren't doing Zoom, you can still invite your students to join you, just like many children's videos do. If you've ever noticed, Sesame Street will invite you, Pocoyo will invite you. You don't have to feel like just because it's a recorded video that you can't invite your students to participate and join along with you. So you might do it a second time. You might just do the counting just to get them familiar if they are unfamiliar with the numbers, although probably they are familiar, and they can count along with you, which is really great. Additionally, you can send the lyrics or the poem itself to your students. You can send them the props. They could make them at home if they have a printer. This has been, definitely something that I'm trying to navigate with my students, to be sure that I don't want to provide too many things that have to be printed out, because not everyone has a printer, and certainly not everyone has a color printer. But that's okay, because I also do have these extension activities that I have included now. These are new to our poem pack. And this one is for, obviously, this particular poem. And I have an activity page in the poem pack now for each of the other two as well. La Gallina Francolina and Debajo, un botón. So that if you are able to provide something printable to your students, that you could share this out to them, or perhaps if your school is giving packets, you could print these out yourself and have them sent to the families. In this instance, as you can see, we have el caballo for coloring, and then we have all of the number prompts, and the idea being that they would put the actual number. Okay, so it is spelled out in Spanish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they would write the numeral in the space provided. They can then use this to retell the poem on their own at home. And even if they only had this on the screen, they could also use this on the screen as well as a visual. So there's a couple of different ways that they could do this. But as I said, if you're able to send home printables, this makes for a really great opportunity for extension. And certainly once we're back in the classroom, won't this be perfect? Along with the other ones in the poem pack. So if you already have it, you can just download it from your purchases page to get the updates. And if you don't have it, maybe now is a great time to include it in your classes. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks so much. Be well.